two aspects to energy conservation. One is you look at the ecosystem, for example, okay, in the last 6-7 years, as India, we spent up close to 7,000 crores. Now, we also saved 4,000 crores in terms of energy, in terms of electric energy, in terms of coal, in terms of liquid energy, which is petroleum and gases, of course. Now, that is on the ecosystem side. The energy, we have a lot of transmission losses, if you see. And these transmission losses really need to be reduced, because the amount of energy that is generated, and by the time it actually comes to the cities and to the suburbs, you lose a major part of it. Now, how can we improve the transmission efficiency of this energy? And then, if everybody gets into, let's say, electric mobility, how will you actually be able to sustain that electric mobility, the charging of those batteries and the systems, and also meet the demands of household and industry and the hotel industries and the hospitals and other things? So that's something that is outside the purview of the mobility industry, but that's something to be taken into consideration if you were to make an electric economy in terms of electric mobility. Now, coming to the vehicle as such, as a unit, in the vehicle, what is happening today is the number of features that we have on the vehicle today are much more than what it was in the last 5 years, 10 years. So with the size of battery that you have, the 50 amp hour or a 80 amp hour battery, can we actually meet the demands of the consumer inside the vehicle? I mean, you're talking about features like heated seats, talking about dual air conditioners, you're talking about television sets, and you're talking about sound systems, the music system that we have, you're talking about navigation systems, you're talking about telematics. All this takes energy. Now, can we actually increase the size of the battery, which means we are going to increase the battery cost, we are going to increase the weight of the vehicle, or can we change the battery technology to keep the size and weight same and get the same energy density? So that is going to be something that the energy system suppliers have to start looking at. People have started looking at ultra cabs in the vehicles, people have started looking at fuel cells in the vehicles. So can we actually look at those options? But although there are technology demonstrators and prototypes that OEMs have built, at the end of the day, it's also about sustainability and affordability. Yes, you can build a vehicle that can supplement energy through ultra cabs. You can build a vehicle that can supplement energy through a fuel cell, but at what cost? And at the end of the day, it's the price point that matters, and also what sort of volumes and market share you're looking at, because you certainly can make 10 vehicles, 50 vehicles, or a few hundred vehicles, but if you're looking at thousands and 100,000 and 200,000, then you have to have a very different mindset in terms of development and technology. About component industry, one of the interesting statistics is, we have about 500 organized players in the market in India, and they basically have added value in terms of 77% of them add value to that. The unorganized players are many replacement market players. I mean, they're talking about replacement parts, you're talking about spurious parts, you're talking about genuine parts. So if you were to sort of draw a pie chart and look at the powertrain, you would look at the suspension, electrical parts, body and chassis, you would say engine and engine components are 31% of the share. Drivetrain, transmission, steering and all is about 19%. Talking about suspension and other parts is about 12%. And add up the electrical stuff, it's about 9 to 10%. And body and chassis, it constitutes about 12% of the whole thing. Now, these component manufacturers, if we have to get technologies that are to stay abreast with the green economy, then they will also have to step up to the table and bring technologies there, which means they'll have to put in a lot of investment, which means they'll have to put a lot of talent in place to make it happen. But the interesting aspect is, the domestic market projected growth is around 8 to 10% for the next 10 years. I mean, that's a very interesting figure, and somebody in the component business, they should be really excited to put in money and investment and take up that challenge and put it on their stride. Exports are projected to grow at 30%, I mean, per annum, and this is a tremendous figure. I mean, double digits and 30s is a fantastic figure. And if you look at India, we are one of the most competitive component manufacturers in the world. So can we actually harness that and increase the ecosystem and canvas to make it much better for us? And potential in the next decade, we're talking about at least US close to the tune of $5 billion. I mean, that is again something that can excite people and energize people, and also kind of be a big catalyst to the industry and to the economy in terms of automotive. And mind you, the automotive industry, for every job that is created, there are 6 other jobs that are created for one job in the automotive industry. So, which is again a very staggering growth in the socio-economic aspects of the industry. The APAC 16, if you look at it, it starts on October the 6th, and it goes on for 2 days. We have about 38 sessions that we have planned. There are different technical sessions there. We have a technology theater which will run in parallel to this. Yeah, in the technical sessions, of course, you're looking at hardcore engineering folks, designers sitting and looking at and understanding, sharing best practices, lessons learned in terms of technology, in terms of implementation. In the technology theater, what we're going to do is very high-level discussion on technology. So the middle and senior management engineers and managers that will be there will have an opportunity to listen to those. In addition to that, I would say we do have panel discussions, very high-profile and intensive panel discussions on public transportation and manufacturing hub. So these are 2 different panels that are going to happen there. If you look at the brochure, you do have very different topics that are being discussed at this forum. It might seem that this is like one of the usual conferences, but I think the unique proposition here is discussions in technology theaters, having the panel sessions which are very different from the others. The theme is very different, I would say. We're talking about sustainable technologies for safe and smart mobility. And I think both these are very relevant to the current environment in the country, especially with infrastructure and technology advancement. So this should be a great forum to attend for engineers, for professionals, for upcoming engineers in terms of students, and also the government and policy makers. And I'm sure people will derive a lot of value through these discussions and networking. The speaker profiles are pretty impressive, I would say. I mean, you have engineers at middle and senior management level. You have researchers who have experience in multiple regions, multiple countries in the world. And that brings a very broad perspective. I think one of the discussion points that is going to be is, how people have leveraged technology from across the borders and brought it into India, and how they made it affordable. I think that is one of our success stories and one of our points to be proud of in the last few years, how we have brought in technology from overseas, how we have made it mass market affordable. And we as the Indian industry have the advantage of leveraging it across, because our volumes that we crank out are not in millions and millions as in other markets. So we can always deploy technology and kind of refine it and improvise it as we go forward. So we have a better opportunity and a better shot at it in terms of this. So and the other thing in terms of speaker profiles is, in the panel discussions we will have a mix of very high folks from the industry, from the government, and also from the ministries, which is a good mix of policymakers, regulators, practitioners, and also the OEM. So everybody who's attending should be looking forward to all these good interactions.